The Logitech G502 Proteus Spectrum is an update to the Proteus Core, and I didn't do a full review on either of them, so I guess we'll start with the predecessor first, and leave the Spectrum in the corner for now. The aesthetics sport a nice edgy everything to perfectly represent your gamer side, and it's got a curvy edge at the bottom where your thumb sits for great ergonomics. Main bits are smooth matte black plastic, with the other buttons sporting a glossy black finish. There are textured rubber grips at the side and smooth feet for easy gliding at the bottom. Having owned the Core for forever and a day, I can comfortably say that it really doesn't get gross after extended handling use, from like finger grime and all that crap. Last but not least, there's that handsome braided cable accompanied by that lovely Velcro strap. Looking at the mouse's guts, we have the PMW3366 optical sensor, widely known as the best sensor since Mosaic Blur, which supports between 200 and 12,000 dpi, just in case too fast isn't fast enough. The bottom plate that seconds as a thumb rest is held on magnetically and can pop off to reveal a separate compartment to hold up to 5 included weights at 3.6 grams each for a maximum of 18 additional grams of weight, just in case you like your mice extra fat. It's got a 32-bit microprocessor and on-round switches to top it all off. The main switches for the left and right buttons are rated for 20 million clicks, while the remaining switches are good for around 5 million each. Now for functionality. The mouse is designed to work best with Logitech's gaming software, links for that can be found in the description below. It's got 11 programmable buttons and a 12th button for unlocking Twitter mode, which is basically scroll really fast through everything. You have the left and right click, the scroll wheel which serves as a middle click and a tilt to either side, 2 buttons buddying up with the left click defaulted to DPI shifting, which can be depicted with the LEDs on the side, customized for up to 5 stages, 1 button near super scroll mode to switch between up to 3 onboard profiles, and 3 buttons near the thumb, 2 defaulted to forward and back for web browsing, and the third for lowering DPI as a sniper button. I'm a palm grip user, but even as a claw gripper, the left and right buttons are easier to trigger than a grammar Nazi. As a claw grip user, you may have some troubles reaching that sniper button. Here are a few sound tests for anyone who may or may not be curious. In the software, you can edit, enable, and disable profiles, program your macros, set your polling rate, tune the mouse depending on the surface you're on, adjust your lighting settings for the DPI indicator and Logitech logo, and adjust your DPI for up to 5 steps. DPI cannot be adjusted individually per the X and Y axes, but I don't think anybody does that anyway. To enable or disable profiles, simply check or uncheck the box next to the profile name. DPI sensitivity levels and values can be adjusted here. Macros can be created or edited by right-clicking the tag and going to Edit. You can bind a mouse function, a keystroke, or record a macro with or without delays. Polling rate can be seen over here, but you're almost always going to want it at 1000. This icon here allows you to set the surface your mouse is on for optimal tracking, and this icon shows your lighting options. The last tab is for tracking mouse activity. When you run it, it will keep track of which part of your rodent gets touched the most or touched the longest, depending on what drop-down option you choose. Now that the info dump is all done, time for more info dump. That's pretty much the Proteus Core in a nutshell, and it's almost the Proteus Spectrum in a nutshell too. But there are a couple of differences. The Proteus Spectrum supports 16.8 million color RGB lighting in 2 zones, the DPI indicator and the Logitech logo, whereas the Core only supports blue LEDs. Lastly, the bottom blue plate in the Core was forsaken for a black plate for more color neutrality. It doesn't make sense to give you the choice between 16.8 million different colors, but forcibly impose an accent color that will only ever match with itself, white or off. I'm talking to you, motherboard manufacturers. So that's the deal with the 2 mice. Both mice get an A in functionality, the Core gets an A in aesthetics, but the Spectrum only gets an A-. More on that in a little bit. In terms of build quality, both mice get a low A, not quite an A-, just a low A. Like, I took off like 1 point because I noticed a little bit of wobble in the scroll wheel. Not that big of a deal. You probably wouldn't even notice. It's really subtle. Now what about comfort and longevity? Comfort gets an A+. I'm a palm gripper and the mouse feels great. It sits 5.2 inches or 132 millimeters long and 1.57 inches or 40 millimeters tall. I keep all the weights in because I like some resistance when playtime rolls around, and I especially appreciate that thumb rest. I get more support from that thing than I get from my parents when I want to pursue my dreams. The rubber textured grips are great for keeping the mouse from flying across the room when I'm playing a horror game, and the mouse glides buttery smooth. In terms of longevity, well, I did mention the 20 million clicks and the 5 million other clicks, and I've owned the Core for like 7 years now, so I imagine that the Spectrum will serve me well too. The last thing to talk about is the price. The G502 Proteus Core can be found on Amazon for $99. It was released for, I want to say 90, I think. And the reason the price has gone up is because it is no longer produced. It's been discontinued by the manufacturer. So why am I even doing this? The G502 Proteus Spectrum was also released for $90 at launch, but now it's dropped to $60 on Amazon, which makes it significantly more attractive. Amazon links for both of these will be in the description for your convenience. So for the pros, it's super comfortable, it boasts a great sensor, and it's got snazzy lighting for those of you who like looking at your mouse more than your monitor. Additionally, features everywhere. As for the cons, the Core only has one that I can really think of, and it's that wobbly scroll wheel, which is really not that big of a deal to me. I should also mention that the scroll wheel has a metal texture on it, so I've heard that some people slip off it easy when they're trying to scroll, but I've never had that problem. So, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, dependent on your scrolling habits or something. As for the Spectrum, it's got the same wobbly scroll wheel as the Core, but again, that's not really that big of a deal. However, do you remember that A- I gave it for aesthetics? That's mostly because when you add more features, you also add more faults. The DPI indicator and Logitech logo cannot be individually lit. They must share a color. But I also kind of lied. If you hit the profile switch button, the DPI indicator will switch to blue, and it'll leave the logo alone, which is a little strange, I think. This can be fixed by going back into Logitech software and clicking on the lighting tab. Lastly, changing the LED to white reveals that the Logitech logo has a bit of a blue tint to it, but the DPI indicators seem to be fine. All of these issues are very minor, and this is, without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite mouse ever. So that's all I have to say about that. If you think I did a good job, go ahead and toss me a like on this video, because that'd be cool. However, if you hate me and everything I stand for, which is technically nothing right now because I'm sitting, go ahead and toss me a dislike because I probably deserve it. But hey, if you really like this kind of thing, go ahead and slap the subscribe button around because I will have more of it coming out eventually. If this wasn't what you were expecting or I missed one of your questions, go ahead and toss it down in the comment section and I will address your inquiry as soon as I can. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.